Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of The Remote Real Estate Investor. I'm Michael Albom, and today I have with me Jaden Sterling, who is going to be sharing his story about going from equities stock investor to real estate investor to now equities teacher back in the markets which he left, but with a purpose this time. So let's get into it. Jaden, what is going on, man? Thank you so much for taking the time to hang out with me today. I really appreciate it.
Hey, my pleasure, Michael. Happy to be here with you.
Awesome. Well, I think we're going to have a lot of fun today. And I know a little bit about your background, but I would love if you could share with our listeners who you are, where you come from, and what is it that you're doing in the financial sector today.
Presently in British Columbia, Canada. Absolutely beautiful up here. And working in the financial realm, I've worked in this area for 33 years in finances and 11 years in real estate, and then the last 20 in the equity markets. So I'm super familiar with both. And yeah, happy to be here with you and share some value with your audience.
Awesome. And so you're living up in Canada, but did you always work up there? Are you doing equities in Canada or in the States? Talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I've been up here 11 years. Prior to that, I was in St. Petersburg, Florida, where I built a portfolio of affordable housing units with the city of St. Pete, partnered with them. We did 125 projects and it worked out really well. Built a $12.5 million business in the real estate markets. And this was even during the 07, 08 when it was really tough. Money was tight, super challenging, but got through it, thank goodness. But my background is steeped in the equity markets. My initial training was in my 20s. I worked on Wall Street for Merrill, Lynch and Citigroup and loved everything that I learned from my wealthy clients, not what I learned from the brokerage firms. That was actually kind of shocking in terms of what I learned about the equity markets and how the system is rigged, and it's rigged to make the wealthy wealthier. And the firms are situated in a way to make money off of clients, not for clients. So when I recognized this, when I learned this truth, I was like, okay, I'm out of here and I'm going to help people also understand how this is set up and then help people work around the situation there.
Interesting. So can you say more on that about how the system is rigged? Just curious to get, an insider scoop on it, because you hear that being said, but you also hear the opposition of, no, we're here to make money for you and with you and grow with you. So talk to us about how you came to that conclusion.
Yeah, a lot of professionals in the financial arena are great people. They have great intentions to help their clients. They sincerely have a desire to really help people and make a difference. And the challenge is the system is set up to steer clients in the direction that makes more money for the brokerage firm, not for the client. One aspect is, a lot of people think they need to diversify. We've heard that throughout the ages, right? Diversify for safety. The challenge is, it's like, I love what Warren Buffett says, diversification is the tax that people pay who don't know what they're doing.
That is right. A great quote.
He's so right about that. The key is to really focus your business. When I was in real estate, I focused on one area, affordable housing. Now in the stock market, I have owned 8 companies, shares of 8 different companies. That's it. Not 100, not 200, not 300. So it really gives an investor leverage to get their money to finally work for them and not work against them. So the industry absolutely, it tracks it's called velocity. It's still to this day, and I was in it 30 years ago. It tracks how much a portfolio turns over, meaning how much a broker or banker makes on that client's portfolio, not what they make for the client. So just in that understanding alone, you just kind of go, I think I need to find another way than a banker or broker to help me make money.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes tons of sense. And so just out of curiosity, how did you end up in the affordable housing sector?
What led you there? I got out of the brokerage business when I was 31, and I looked around and something very strong inside me said, start buying real estate. And I didn't really know. I mean, I didn't know what to do. I didn't have a mentor in that direction. I just knew that I had to do it. So I researched raw land. I researched apartment buildings. I researched trailer parks. I researched single family homes, commercial real estate. And I landed in a category that I felt comfortable with, and that was like from a personal level, doing good, helping other people. I'm a big believer in that. The better we do for others, the more we help ourselves, and it's a beautiful circle that way. And so I like the idea of affordable housing. And I also felt like it gave me leverage. If I bought an apartment building that was, let's say 12 units, I could renovate, half of them in the beginning, and then still have income coming in. There's only one roof on an apartment building, rather than if you buy 12 single family homes, you've got 12 roofs to deal with and everything that comes with that. So I felt like the leverage was great. And did you know, with affordable housing, I didn't know this, but I learned back then that there's special financing for investors who get into that arena. You can get loans that are better rates. Some of the money is forgivable in terms of the down payment, less down payment. Like, it had all these great attributes from an investor standpoint. And then once I bought my first affordable housing project, and made a lot of money. By the way, there's a lot of money to be made in affordable housing. It was always confirmation that when you do good by others and for others, that you'll be abundantly blessed.
Interesting. So you did that for quite a while, and sounds like did quite well. And then you moved back into the equities market.
Yeah, I knew that my mission was to assist people, to teach people how to become wealthy, how to work with money, how to understand the principles of money that actually bring in money rather than take someone's wealth. And I wasn't teaching it. I was in my office. I was running a big real estate company. I had 15 employees. We were busy, so
Wow.
I wasn't doing what I was intending to do, which was to teach others. So I wrapped up my entire portfolio all in one shot and stepped into my twin brother got sick with cancer. He was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer.
I'm so sorry to hear
And this
that.
is back in 07. And they told him, look, you have 2 years to live. And during that time, we had incredibly deep conversations. And at one point he said to me, bro, I don't feel like I've lived my purpose. And I said, what do you mean? You're doing great. You're a realtor, you're married, you got 2 great kids. Like, what are you talking about? I didn't really understand. And he said, no, I just feel like I didn't do what I came here to do. And that really struck me, because I knew at a very young age what I was here to do. I had an epiphany at 14. It's like something told me deep down inside that I would be working with people, assisting people to be empowered by money rather than enslaved by it. I just had this clear knowing. And that's why I went into working in the equity markets and then ultimately real estate, putting to practice what I had learned. And I knew I had to start getting out and teaching. So I made an about face right then and there. I told my brother, I said, man, I'm going to do it for you and for me. I'm going to start getting out there, living my purpose, and start teaching. So I did. I sold my entire real estate portfolio. Right then I met my wife. She's up in Canada. We realized our relationship worked better when we lived in the same country. So I made the big leap and came up here. And man, it's been amazing. It did bring me right back to my training in stocks and knowing, because I was able to build my real estate portfolio from what I had built from my stock investments over an 8-year period. So one fed the other. And, people ask me all the time, which do you like best, right? Did you like stocks or real estate? I know this is the real estate show. I totally respect that. And the thing that I really draw from is real estate will give you a roof over your head, but stocks are a whole lot easier. There's no fixing toilets and dealing with tenants and, that situation. So I think a balance of both is key. You can use one to support the other and one to actually buy the other. I've bought an 8-unit apartment building by putting my IRA up as collateral with the bank. So no money down. I just said, here, take my IRA and I'm going to do, X, Y, and Z to this building once I get the rents raised and get it make these capital improvements. Can I get my IRA back? And they said, sure. So I bought it. I got an appraisal done at that time. 6 months later, after we made the capital improvements, raised the rents, I got another appraisal done. They released my IRA back to me. So it was a no money down deal, worked really well. But had I not had that IRA, it would have been a whole different situation.
That's unbelievable, Jaden. That's wild. So people, I think in your sphere, some of your coaching students know you as the spiritual money guy. And I'm detecting a little bit of that as we converse here, but I would love to hear from you. How did you come by that name?
Two reasons. A lot of people know my background story, that epiphany that I had at 14 that I shared with you, that understanding and really clear knowing. I've always been a clear knower. So some people call it claircognizant. Clair means clear, and then cognizant is knowing. So I've always had a super clear knowing in my life. But I live that way. I have a very simple life. There's nothing complicated. I do my best by not lying, stealing, or anything like that. And I think by having virtues like that and paying attention to those virtues and honoring them for yourself, you have a certain amount of clarity in life. And things get a little simpler that way. So when I heard one day, it's actually a speaker in a podcast, and I wish I could remember who it was because I would give her credit, but she said something really interesting. She said, look at the word prosperity. The Latin derivative of that word is prospere, which means for spirit. And she went on to say, you honor your spirit when you're prosperous. And that really spoke to me because I believe that. I believe she was absolutely correct in that. And, think about it. We're not here to worry about money, right? We're not here to play life in a small way, to play a game that, I look at life as a game. It's a big monopoly board. You have so many houses that convert to hotels and then apartment buildings and yada, yada. And
you hope you don't go to jail.
That's right. Make sure you don't go to jail. That's right. That saves a lot of hassle when you stay out of jail. Yeah.
So let's get deep for just a minute, if that's okay.
Sure.
So you, I think, are a very lucky person in the sense that you've always been knowing and you've had this clear direction for your life. What do you say to folks that don't have that clarity or that are struggling to find that clarity? How do you gain that clarity?
Well, we know that purpose it's not like a billboard that drops out of the sky and says, this is your purpose. It doesn't work that way. What I find from most people who ask me that question is what they're doing in that present moment is truly their purpose, or else they wouldn't be doing it. So what someone is really asking is, how do I know if I need to be doing something different? That's really the question they're asking, right? Because if we start to acknowledge that where that person is in that moment is exactly where they're intended to be, if there's discomfort around that, if they say, I know there's more for me or there's something out there, but I'm not sure what it is, then there's no way around it, my friend. It's a deep dive inside. When I got out of corporate America, I took 6 months off and I did yoga. I worked with a shaman. I did a deep spiritual inner work around what I was here to do. And that really helped give the clarity. So I think people have to spend a little more time off screen and more inner work time, right? Push away from these devices that we use, these iPads and phones and computers, lower your brain function. Your brain has to actually slow down in order to connect in with this device, to be able to take the information in. So what someone can do, I'm just thinking back then, the practice that I did every morning, I'd wait before your eyes open, connect in with your higher self and just ask, what do I need to know right now? So this is before the brain kicks in, before your phone, before any type of device, phone or what have you that you turn on, that's a time when you're going to get information. You're still kind of in a sleepy state. You haven't fully woken up yet. Just sit with that at that time and you'll get information. You'll get, an idea will drop in or something inspiring or a thought of, oh yeah, I need to reach out to this person. And then the universe aligns all of that for you. It happens in such an elegant way that a lot of people overlook it because they think, oh, simple is not powerful. And actually, the truth is, peace is the new power. Simplicity is the way to get there.
Oh man, I love that. I'm getting goosebumps just hearing you say that. I think
Awesome.
my problem is I have that thought come to me at 2 a.m. Oh, I got to call this person. And then I can't go back to sleep. So I need to figure out a way to get around that.
Yeah, super simple. Just either put a whiteboard in your room and you get up and write that down on the whiteboard, or a pen and paper. And so I just use a big fat marker because I know I'm not going to be able to read it. If I do a ballpoint, I can't read it in the morning. Reach over, grab my piece of paper, write it down, and then in the morning you'll have it.
Oh, that's great too. I love it. Man, I'm getting way more than I bargained for here having you on. This is awesome, man. So, okay, so let's fast forward now to what you're doing today, because A, I think it's super interesting, and B, it's kind of controversial, I think, from a traditional investment standpoint. So you are now picking individual stocks. Do I have that right?
Yeah. So, like I say, I'm totally counter narrative. I anything that is out there in the narrative, generally, I'd like to turn on its head and look at it from a different perspective. And we have to look at what's being pushed on people: mutual funds, package products, managed money, CDs, all these things that are simply not going to give someone a successful retirement, a profitable retirement. And I realized, so back in 2017, I put a course together to teach people how to invest in stocks, what to look for, how to read a chart, how to interpret it. And then one of my students said to me, I love your course. Could you create software around this? And I was like, my brain just exploded, like, oh, well, how would I do that? And that's such a good idea. And I'm not a techie guy, and then the universe lined it all up. And sure enough, I partnered with two gentlemen who are amazing IT guys. We spent 3 years developing software called Sterling Stock Picker, and it does exactly that. I said to the guys, if we can create software that in 3 clicks someone finds a winning stock, we could change the world. And I believe it. I believe we can, and I believe we are. So we did that. We put the software together. The algorithm calculates all the metrics that someone needs to know, so they don't have to worry about, about not knowing. And it empowers people to find stocks aligned with their personal values, aligned with their risk tolerance level. It's a really comprehensive software that we've put together. And it worked out so well. It became profitable right out of the gate that now I'm in the middle of a Regulation A offering where we've raised $500,000. I'm taking the company public in 2 years. So we've got 2 more years to go to increase the revenue for the software. And then our subscribers who get in at 50 cents, I'm going to just do a super low issuance in the float. So my goal is $8 a share to go public in 2024.
Holy crap, that's amazing. So, how has someone not done this before? It seems from the outside looking in so obvious, right? That
there's software. Oh, there's software out there, man, but it's so convoluted. It's so I've paid tens of thousands of dollars to buy software to invest in the markets. And I was confused. And I'm like, if it's confusing for me, like, this is my background. It's
you breathe
what I did for a living for 11 years. If I was confused, there's no way that most people can understand it. And it was so confusing, I couldn't put it to work. So we've made ours super simple, so easy. And I think that's our superpower, is we've simplified the complicated with the software.
So, Jaden, tell me why everyone, that is so different and counter to what you hear from everyday investors to the professional investors. Go get mutual funds. They're safer, this and that. Why does this work?
Well, it works because people are getting 30, 40, 50, 120% return on their investment. First of all, My biggest challenge, Michael, when someone comes into our platform is I have to teach them that 8%, that average is not what they need to be shooting for. But everyone has been so conditioned to focus on, just settle for average returns, right? Don't expect
Mm-hmm.
to
Mm-hmm.
outperform the markets. I mean, it is such a
Right, right.
lie. It is so easy to outperform the markets when you have the right information. That's the key. You got to know when to invest in. So our stockware tracks when to invest in certain sectors. It's been heavy in mining and oil and gas companies for the last 18 months. Those have been super profitable over the last 18 months, as we know, with the price and rising in oil. And hard assets, commodities like gold, silver have been, doing fairly well. I think they're still being suppressed in the prices, but that will change at some point. It has to. So yeah, I'm totally contrarian, but think about it. If you're a business owner or entrepreneur, and if you have 150 or 200 products to sell, right, to manage in your company, you'd be like, I don't even know where to start, let alone how am I going to be profitable and successful, right? But
Yeah.
if you have 6 to 8 products that you're selling, you're super focused in your business. You know what you're doing. You know your target audience. You know your manufacturing costs. Like you just have these 6 to 8 products that you're selling. There's a really good chance your business is going to be really profitable. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking back to my prior career, and we sold one thing and one thing only, and killed it, as opposed to the other competitors that had multiple lines of the similar business. So,
Then you answered your question, my friend. It's exactly why we know a smaller concentrated portfolio of stocks of these are some of the largest companies in the world, mostly in North America, that buying into those shares, you can get rich. There's no question. I did it with one company the decade in my 20s. It was the company that I worked for, Citigroup. The parent company at the time was Travelers, and that stock tripled. So I turned literally $70,000 into over $1 million, and that's why I retired.
holy
Yeah, it's
smokes.
powerful.
That's incredible. All right, so talk to me a little bit about the software itself. I mean, it must be really expensive.
It's not. It's $33 US a month. We have a 14-day free trial, so someone can take it for a test drive for free for 14 days. We priced it in a way that everyone could take advantage of it. We know it should be probably a few $100s a month, but we didn't want to do that. We want to just leave it at a price that people are comfortable paying. Heck, if you're paying 15 a month for Netflix, you might as well pay a little bit more and
That's such a reality slap in the face.
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
yeah, I'm willing to pay $15 for Netflix. Don't even think twice about it. But to help yourself get rich, like, whoa, $33.
That's it. That's it, my friend. Exactly. Might as well invest in your future and learn a little bit. I'm in there every Monday. I do a live stream every Monday at 12:30, and I share what's going on in the markets from a macroeconomic standpoint. And then I get into the micro aspect of what I'm buying, why I'm buying. I'm very, very transparent. I tell people what I'm buying, the reasons behind it, and why 2 weeks ago, I was going to buy Tesla stock. It was $1,200 a share. I went onto the live stream and I said, these are the reasons I'm not buying it here. I know it's going to pull back, and I walk them through the software and show them this is why the stock broke below their short-term averages. The MFI, the money flow index, is too high. We just go on and on. So I like to educate people through the platform. That's one of my big things in life, is to teach people what to look for when they're buying these stocks. So yeah, that's the software.
That's awesome. And so, how well versed does someone have to be in the stock market in order to participate or really take advantage or utilize the software to its fullest intent? Or can someone literally just click a button and it'll spit out, based on their inputs, stocks that they should buy?
That's it right there. Three clicks and they're going to find a list of winning stocks that they can buy at the exact right time. We've already figured it out for them. We actually incorporated personal values as well, because My belief is if you're in alignment with the companies that you're investing your money in, then it'll work out far better than, let's say if you're a health nut, you probably don't want to own McDonald's. Well, did you know McDonald's is in most mutual funds, and most equity funds in the US holds McDonald's stock in there. So it just depends, right? If you want to steer clear of that, you can with individual stocks. That's what's so cool. I'll tell you a story. And this hits home as to why I do what I do. When I was a broker with Merrill Lynch, I was like 25 years old. I had a client named Dr. Walter Arnold, and he told me a story about a friend of his who was back then we called them secretaries. She was an executive secretary, and she invested $5 every single week in her stocks. $5 back then. And she did this for 40 years. Well, she retired with $1.2 million. And her stocks grew like exponentially. Like she had 20% annualized growth year after year after year. And he said the fascinating thing was how she found these companies. What she did back then in the 40s and 50s, it was very expensive to advertise in magazines in color. So she would flip through these magazines, and any companies that advertised in color, back then it would have been Kodak and just companies that were doing really, really well. IBM was advertising in color back then. She said she bought shares of those companies. She had 4 different companies in her portfolio, and she just kept investing in them week after week after week, $5 a week. Her portfolio grew. She didn't touch it. She didn't take any dividends out until she retired with $1.2 million.
That's incredible.
Isn't it simple? It's simple.
It's totally the KISS principle.
So smart. That's it. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So, it's funny because you took the question before I could even ask it. And I was going to say, one of the things I think that's so powerful about real estate is leverage, that you can take $20,000 and go control $100,000 worth of asset, where you cannot do that unless you're buying a margin sort of thing in the stock space. So is it worth it for someone to take a little bit of money and invest it? Or does it need to be a larger amount to really become impactful? And it sounds like I got the answer to that question, but curious to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, well, we got to start somewhere. And with how the equity markets are set up, if you're in the US, you can buy stocks for free. It doesn't cost. I have my US account is with TD Ameritrade, 0 commissions, right? Robinhood, same situation. Right. So yeah, all of that money goes to work for you. Where when I was a broker at 25, we were charging several $100s to buy stock. In one transaction, right? It was a lot of money back then. Wow. Now it's just that barrier is gone. So more now than ever, it works with starting to invest. Someone can dollar cost average into the equity markets. That's what Ann did. $5 a week. So she didn't try to time the market. She didn't try to figure out, what's the best price for a stock. She just said, hey, I've got $5 a week I can invest, put away and not touch. And so that might be someone can start with $100 but we got to start somewhere. And like you said, margin is another aspect that can increase their purchasing power. But we're seeing something very interesting happen in these markets, real estate as well. There's a constriction happening, right? The Fed is starting to raise interest rates on mortgages. And I lived through, like I said, 07 and 08, where it was a scary time. It was the market was contracting, lines of credit were being reduced. It was hard to get access to cash. So I would say for an investor today, look at it from a multi-approach standpoint. Have some money in equities, stocks, companies, 4 to 6 different stocks. Consider real estate, but also hard assets like gold and silver coins. The actual physicality of gold and silver. I think if you look at, there's talk about a central bank digital currency coming in. That has to be reset. In the previous 500 years, whenever a currency went bust, it was reset against gold, the gold standard. Right. So when that happens again, which it will at some point, it's probably sooner than later at this point, they're going to have to market gold at a fair price. So that may be, instead of $2,700 or $2,000 an ounce, it might be $20,000 an ounce. It could be 30,000, 40. We don't know what that number is going to be. But if someone starts investing that way, thinking that way, how am I going to maintain my wealth? How am I going to preserve my wealth and grow my wealth during this time? Because this is a tricky time. We have inflation, probably hyperinflation, on the horizon. Mm-hmm. We've got interest rates going up, which to me sounds totally counterintuitive. I don't know why they're raising interest rates as inflation starts to run rampant, but the printing presses printed and minted way too much money. So now they're trying to make up for that. That's the narrative that they're telling us. So we have to plan for that and prepare for that.
Okay. And one last question for you, Jaden. So many people you hear talking about how frothy and how top heavy the equities market is. The stock market is so high. It's never been higher. What do you say to that in terms of people who are just getting started?
Yeah, so there's so much new money going into the equity markets. Right now, it's at a net 15 billion, that's with the B, a month net buying. So there's 15 billion more a month being purchased, equities purchased on the exchanges than being sold, because frankly, it's one of the best investments out there. So there's tons of money going into the equity markets. That'll continue to drive them. The markets did pull back early this year, 15% decline. And just 2 years ago, remember, it was down 35% in a 6-week period once this COVID pandemic kicked in. So it's pulled back. But what drives the market is buyers, not sellers. And we see the buyers continuing.
So, okay, I lied. I have one follow-up question for you.
Yeah.
When Warren Buffett says, I think it was Warren Buffett who said, be greedy when others are fearful and fearful when others are greedy. To your point of there's all this money going into the market, I mean, is that people being greedy? And so therefore, should we be fearful, or should we be kind of jumping on that bandwagon thinking, well, hey, if these people that make a lot of money are investing, maybe I should too, hitch my cart to their horse, so to speak.
Yeah, that's such a good point, because there are so many great companies out there right now that are thriving during this time, and you can make a lot of money in stocks. So I think you have to have a balanced portfolio in terms of some money in real estate, right? That's important. People always have to have a place to live, and equities, and then, like I mentioned, hard assets, the gold and silver coins. And then once you have that perfect trifecta of investments, you can really sleep better at night, because you're not worried about, what the markets are going to do. You have a steady plan. If the market does pull back, well, you get to buy more shares, which is pretty good.
Now they're on sale.
That's right. Now they're on sale. Exactly right.
Awesome. Well, Jaden, this was so much fun, super, super informative and interesting. Where can people learn more about you or take advantage of your software if they'd like to?
Sure. sterlingstockpicker.com is where you can find me, reach out to me. We have a great website that shows how to get started in the stock picker software and how to connect with me if you'd like. I always return emails. It may take me a while because I get a lot each and every day, but I promise you I'll certainly get back to you.
Right on. Well, thank you again for taking the time to chat with me. Really appreciate you coming on, and I'm sure I'll be chatting soon.
My pleasure, Michael. I look forward to chatting again. Thank you.
Awesome. You got it. Take care. Alrighty, everyone. That was our show. A big thank you to Jaden for coming on. Super, super cool software he's developed. I will definitely be checking it out, and thought he shared some really interesting perspectives about how to balance a portfolio. So if you like the episode, please feel free to leave us a rating or a review wherever it is you're listening to this podcast. And as always, we look forward to seeing you on the next one. Happy investing.